Alright, YouTube, it's time to get bamboozled again here. I promised you that I'd show you my collection of these. Now this is, I've got the camera off a little bit to the side and the microphone, so this might be a little bit touch and go as far as how the autofocus works. Quick backstory for those of you who don't know what these sorts of things are. Since I've been a little kid, we always had a couple of bamboo wall hangs on the wall, and I always thought they were interesting, but I never really had the time or the training necessary to identify how to find more of them. And then I was using eBay, and I was like, oh, I'll look it up on here, and I was looking through vintage items. I managed to find one, and the terminology generally used to describe them, with a few variants. And so I was able to obtain, well, quite a number of them, actually. So I'm going to show you some of these. Now, some of them, I have identified these are actually vintage items, first and foremost. This one's a little bit on the derpy side. You can see that tiger's slightly derped out. The one on top looks a little bit better. Some of these are nicer than others. Now, this one doesn't have it. But most of these wall hangs, which are from the 1980s, almost certainly, most of them have a mark on them in red, which is, I assume, a signature. They are Japanese, not Chinese in origin. Some people list them as Chinese. They're actually not, which is funny because they're made on bamboo. And it appears to be a takeoff, a latter-day takeoff of the tradition, which actually my grandfather had several of these, of silk wall hangs made in Japan. Army of the occupation there brought back many of them portraits. A lot of pictures, mostly of tigers. And you can see the sort of subject material here is, of course, nature. You've got this wonderful, I believe, cherry or peach tree with some sparrows. You've got tigers. Tigers feature heavily in many of them. Oh, yeah, and I should probably show you several marks. This red mark in the box, I believe, is the signature. And then I have no clue what that actually says. It may not even be Japanese script, but I do know that many of these were made actually in Japan. Now, there's actually a number here that says 305. I take that to mean, and it is likely, that there were hundreds of these made over time. And I do know that many of them date to the 1980s, if not all of them, because they're actually calendars, same style, you can identify. For example, this thread is original. It's the right color, it's the right make, and so forth, frayed on the end. When they're replaced, typically, they're either not frayed on the end or they're a different color. This part, you can tell, may be lighter or darker. I believe the darker ones are original, and some of these were made differently. I do know they were made over a number of years, however, as well, so the style may have changed. You can see. This one's quite nice. Roosters. Chickens, some sort. And you can see again, it has the marks on it, pointing to its originality. Now, there are other designs, also on bamboo, where the bamboo is of a different width. There are different numbers of strings. There will be no gold or no white. Sometimes there are metal things on the end here. Sometimes they're missing, but they were there. And this, I believe, is not real wood. That's actually plastic. Most of them have real wood on them. I don't know the significance. It could be from different years, but because the calendars are dated to the 1980s, many of these in this style were made at the time. This is a nice one. I've actually got two of these. One of them is known vintage, that is, it's actually from my childhood. This one is in a different condition. It's actually, there's no staining. It's a lighter color. Sometimes you find them, and on the back, there will be glue. Or some sort of marks from where they were apparently mounted at one point along a wall. That is, the person didn't want to actually hang them, so what they did was they put glue on the back or something like that, stuck it to the wall. Sometimes you have little remnants of stuff from the wall on them. Many of them are like that. I'm not in this for value. I just want to complete the collection. I want literally, if there are 300 of these, I want 300 of them in my collection. I'll do anything to collect them all. And I've been successful so far at collecting many pandas. But also, subject material, before I forget. Many of them, they depict humans. Others depict landscapes. Some of them are floral, and most of them depict animals, mythological or real. Now this one's actually missing the lower bar here, as you can see. This is not the actual end of the bamboo. It's doubled over on the end where it would have had a hanger, as you can see. That area would be where it would go. That's rather unfortunate. Otherwise, it's in nice shape. It's a pretty picture, you know, a whole family of pandas. You know, before they go extinct, something like that. Which one's this? This is another painted lady. The original term I've seen used for some of the works on silk, which are more expensive, generally older. Some of them date to the interwar period. Most of them are from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. They were big at the time, and then the style falls out of fashion in the 60s and 70s, comes back with the sort of Asian revivalism of the 80s that goes into the new romantic sort of stuff. I mean, look at that. I mean, it could have been drawn in the 80s. Some of these quite clearly are influenced by that sort of material. Those silk wall hangs, if they weren't portraits, this one's quite beautiful. Peacock. They typically depicted tigers, honestly. Tigers, bamboo, geishas, self-portraits, that was sort of the subject material. They branched out a little bit in the 1980s. This one I really like. This one I got about a week ago. I really like this dragon design. But again, I believe, I'm 99% sure that virtually all of these, if not all, are from the 1980s, possibly the tail end of the 70s, maybe the really early 90s. But that's when this sort of style was in vogue since the early 1950s. I can't believe in the condition that they're in, made out of what they're in, made of, rather. I can't imagine any of these are from the 1950s, honestly. Let's see, this one is rather nice. Nice bright colors on some of them. Others are a little more dull. The more dull ones, I believe, are definitely original. Some of these, of course, might be remakes, reprints of older vintage. But I'm pretty sure there are only a couple here that I suspect that about. I believe, was this one of them? Yes, this is one of them. This has no mark on it. It's obviously the width of the bamboo, if you look. There's a tell. I'll see if I can, how am I actually going to show you? Well, I'll try to show. These aren't particularly brittle, but I don't want to destroy anything. If you look, you can see the difference in the width of the bamboo. The authentic ones are narrower. This one is wider. In fact, it may not be bamboo at all. It almost, in a way, feels like balsam wood. This is plastic, made to look like wood. This is not original. You can tell by the difference in color. Well, this one's red, so I can't really compare. But it's a different design, a different weave is used on the actual thread. It's made to look more or less original, but it may be a modern print. It doesn't matter. I mean, it still looks good. It's nice subject material, but it doesn't have the identifying marks. It's obviously not from the same period of time, in my opinion. Again, I'm no art expert or anything like that. On this subject, I know perhaps a little more than, let's say, the average person. I like my 1980s vintage. I've got a bottle of perfume from the 1980s coming. I'm going to have to show you that at some point, too. Just trust me. This one's nice. I like that. I believe those are crows, or possibly pigeons of some sort. Again, some of this is stylized. The art is more romantic period style. And what does this say, actually? Is this, let's see. Let's get it actually. I can see it better if I can focus it on the camera. I don't know what that says. I know some of these are from a company called Happy World, which operated in the 1980s and I believe is still extant. And Happy World did these. They did the calendars. There's one actual box containing a set of calendars, 12 of them. I mean, 12 subject. I mean, no, it's actually, sorry about that. The 4 seasons and then the yearly calendar from the 1980s, still in the box, perfect condition. It's on eBay. I don't want it because I'm not interested in the calendars. But, you know. This one I don't believe has the red mark, but it has the script on it. And I don't know what the significance of that is. If you look, you can see it's definitely older. Although this one also has the wider bamboo. which may indicate that it's a different design from a different year or something along those lines. It is the same style. It's obviously not just screened onto it. I'm going to move this microphone very slightly because I keep having to bend over. I'm not 100% sure about everything involving these, but I'm pretty sure about a lot of it. Again, the wider bamboo. Indeed, I've thought for this one, it almost looks older, and it's quite nice, as you can see. Nice eagle, apparently attacking a tiger. It may be from a different company, you know, using the same basic style, similar art, subjects, but this almost, you can see that's definitely from the vintage period. It may almost be older than the 1980s for some of those. But most of them, like I said, those that I had in my house, the three there, I know them to be old because they were around when I was a very small child. They were from at least the 80s. I like this one a lot. Another painted lady. Again, missing the red mark. And also there's a crimp, actually. The top piece of bamboo is a little bit offset. I haven't even checked all of the backs here, but you can see it was also mounted at some point. I have no idea how popular these were in the 1980s period. But with anybody who was into the new romantic stuff, I know Hindu imagery was also popular. Anything with Ganesha especially remains popular as well. This is the one specifically that I always had as a child hanging around me. Again, it has the red mark. Obviously is aged, has, you know, a gap missing there. But I was born in the year of the dragon, so naturally it only made sense. And of course, this one has some staining on it, wear and tear over time, but it was never mounted. It was always hung properly, which means that the thread at the top is a little more worn, but the back of this is pristine as far as glue, tape, anything like that. I believe the panda one actually has a piece of Scotch tape. This is another one from when I was a kid. This one honestly looks older as well than some of them. And it's also a totally different subject material. It's almost a different style as well. It's fairly uncommon in these that you see both the floral and animal element and human figures. Usually it's one or the other. It's either a lady or maybe small humans on a landscape, and that's all, like a farming scene. Or it's just nature. It's just some sort of animal. Some sort of floral arrangement. Birds are common. This one I just got today, and it's honestly one of my favorites because of the sun or moon, whichever is being depicted there. Cherry tree, some blue jays or sparrows or some sort of bird, and then that looks very, very 80s style. I can't imagine that wasn't made in the 80s, because that's about as perfect as you can get. It's like Vaporwave the picture or something, honestly. Highly aesthetic. Again, you can see that discoloration is probably where it was had, you know, a sticker saying how much it cost. A little bit of glue on the back. But again, I mean, who cares? I'm not investing in these trying to restore them to perfect working order. I'm not a stickler for that. I think they're attractive anyway. I'm hung all around the place. In the kitchen, in the hallway, here in the room. I've got like 12 of them mounted up. Pure floral arrangement, as you can see. Quite nice. And this one, of course, has the red thread, which is possibly original to the period, but not original to the piece. It's also more tight. Usually you don't find them like that. A couple of them are like this. And on the back, no real identifying features as far as I can tell. I'll be obtaining many more of these over time. Whether it's hundreds or whether there's only 10 more to collect, it doesn't matter. I'll be collecting them all, trust me. Again, no red identifying marker. Also a very nice one. Somebody, I believe it was this one, somebody has it listed on eBay for like $85. I got it with another one for $25. That's about the range. The average cost of these in this sort of condition is about $10 to $20 plus shipping a piece. You can find them in lots, and there's a lot of 5 right now on there, but I've already got 3 of them, and the other 2 are calendars, so I'm not interested in it. If anyone else wants to collect them, well, there you go. This is also proven vintage. Now, this one, I believe those are Chinese characters. Now, what I may be seeing, is that there may be Chinese and Japanese actually created, or they could all be one or the other, and I'm just, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I'm pretty sure that's not Japanese letters there, and if I'm wrong, if somebody here knows either Chinese or Japanese, you can tell me which that is, and potentially which they all are. And as you can see, this one's taken a beating over time, but this was another one I had since childhood, so that one is known. You know, this one is discolored primarily by cigarette smoke. It was, after all, the early 90s, so not much to be done about that. It doesn't matter, who cares? I like this one. I like the fact that this one depicts pine, as well as apparently mistletoe or juniper, or something like that, bamboo, and horses. See, that's the typical scene that you get, nature. Yeah, having trouble getting them over. There's so many of them. I mean, it actually feels a little bit weird when you wiggle this around, honestly. This one's cranes. Quite nice. This is the other one I think I got today. And also fir pine of some sort. Quite nice. Yeah, I should probably check all of these fore and aft with a magnifying glass, just to see what I can tell. Babby's first art history, I guess. Is this a floral? No, this one's birds. I like this one. The main subject, honestly, is floral in nature. There just happen to be a couple of birds plopped into it. Again, as before, nothing there. And this one has a ribbon that's obviously not from the same period. This is plastic, different width, but it's been made to look old. This one, I believe, is a modern printing that's just made to look old. And it even said Vintage Happy World from the seller. I believe, was it printed on here? No, it's not. But this one is almost certainly not from the 1980s. It's just made to look similar. The threading's very well done. Ultimately, it looks original, but I'm pretty sure it's actually not. So there you go. There's my collection of vintage wall hangs. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I know for some of you it's probably a little bit boring because you're like, what the fuck's he talking about? But it interests me, and trust me, as I said, I'll be getting many, many more of these over time. I want all 4 walls in here to be covered eventually, probably by the end of the year. It's not that difficult. It's the cost is negligible, honestly, compared to many things that you have to buy. It's reasonable. There are some listings on there right now, actually, that I might take a look at, honestly. So there you go. That's about all. Peace out.